Hey, it's Dave Brown here, host of Now with Dave Brown on AMI. Check out this latest highlight from the show. Whenever we're talking about advocacy, we always have to remember there's an intersectionality that exists, that it's important that we celebrate and think about Black history, but it's important that we think about Black history in a number of different contexts, including the intersectionality with Black history and Black disability history. So joining us today to explore this further is Ola Ojewumi, an activist, writer, and founder of the Project Ascend from Washington, D.C. She's also the creator behind the hashtag Disabled Black History. Hey, Ola, thank you so much for making time to be with us today. We really appreciate it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So last year you wrote this piece about Black disability history for NBC News, where you shared your personal experience with the public education system. So I want to start there. What was present and what was missing in the education system when it comes to disability history and where that intersects with Black history?
Well, there's a disconnect in teaching of disability history and recognizing that there are millions of students with disabilities who are dying to learn who they are, where they came from. And the intersection of race and disability plays a huge role in the public education system. There's a special education to prison pipeline, meaning students of color who tend to have disabilities tend to end up in juvenile detention, incarcerated, and imprisoned. There's a connection between racism and ableism that affords Black disabled people a different life experience and a much harsher life experience as compared to white disabled people.
When we think about the experience of advocacy, whether it be for social justice along racial lines, or whether it be access along disability lines, how do those two advocacies intersect and relate to one another?
While the disability rights movement and the civil rights movement intersect, the disability rights movement took cues from the civil rights movement. The Black Panther Party notoriously assisted with the legendary and historical 504 sit-ins in which disabled people and disabled activists occupied a federal building demanding accessibility and equal rights. The Black Panther Party provided provided assistance, provided meals, and one of the major leaders of the disability rights movement, Brad Lomax, was a Black Panther as well, who was involved in this historical moment for people with disabilities. So when it comes to accessibility, when it comes to equal rights for people with disabilities, Black disabled people were on the forefront, and we learned from each other. Black rights activists disability rights activists learn from Black activists, and so on and so forth.
You just mentioned one name there, but I'm curious about other notable individuals who were involved in both Black history and disability history who were on the front lines in that advocacy.
So there's some others. One famous woman, Lois Curtis. She was famous specifically for a Supreme Court decision called the Olmstead decision, in which the Supreme Court decided separating people with disabilities in specific homes and communities was illegal and a violation of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that people with disabilities deserve to live in their communities. So there are so many famous Black people who are involved in the disability rights movement. And it's important to remember their names, remember their history, and remember everything about us without us. And there is nothing about us, without Black people with disabilities specifically.
On the show, we oftentimes talk about how it's easy to think about one or two stories or one or two individuals, whether that be in whatever history that we're noting. But why do you think it is that disability is so absent from the Black History Month curriculum that students are getting?
Well, mainly because of ableism in both communities. In the African American community, it is hard enough being a Black person, but imagine being a Black person with a disability. Black people as a whole are devalued. So imagine the value of a person with a disability. In the Black community, we are encouraged not to talk about our hardships, not to talk about our disabilities. It remains a hidden secret and something that we are encouraged not to share. So when it comes to Black History Month, oftentimes people's disabilities are erased. For example, Halle Berry is the first African American woman to win an Oscar for Best Actress. She is a disabled woman. She has 80% hearing loss as a result of domestic violence and has diabetes. Imagine how much more powerful it would be when we share her story during Black History Month if we also share the fact that she has a hearing disability. We have to conquer this ableism and this racism that says Black people with disabilities should hide who they are in order to be accepted in both the white community and the Black community.
As we look at the current landscape, what are some of the pressing disability issues that are potentially disproportionately impacting the Black community?
Specifically, mass incarceration and police brutality. There's actually a Black deaf man's guide to dealing with the police because Black deaf men have been killed during police interactions because they cannot hear police commands. 50% of people killed by the police are people with disabilities. And people with disabilities comprise a large part of the prison system, and a large part of that prison system is Black people with disabilities. Those are the pressing issues. Ending the special education to prison pipeline and the school to prison pipeline, these things will impact people with disabilities, Black people with disabilities the most, who are criminalized and incarcerated as a result of both ableism and systemic racism.
Ola, this topic is so important, and we almost can't do it justice in just a couple of minutes. But I'm so glad you were able to give us this insight. But before I let you go, because I know you are super, super busy, you are involved in this project called Ascend. What does this organization offer, and where can folks learn more?
Project Ascend is a nonprofit organization. We provide college scholarships to disabled youth, and we also provide grants to youth service programs. If you'd like to contribute to our college scholarship program, visit www.project-ascend.org. We appreciate any support and any donation, and we are trying to make it so people with disabilities are able to enter higher education and be able to achieve their dreams of having a college degree and entering the workforce.
A really, really great initiative. Ola, thank you for making time for us today. We're grateful.
Thank you so much.
That is Ola Ojewumi, the creator behind the hashtag Disabled Black History, and also the founder of Project Ascend. You can find out more by visiting project-ascend.org, project-ascend, ASCEND.org. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI TV, or download the podcasts wherever you listen. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI TV, or download the podcasts wherever you listen.